Castagnotis publishing house, Giacomo D Angelo, Michallis, and Nikos from ΗΚΑΡΟΣ. And here, he's going to be speaking later, but Mattias, well, he took the airplane in Copenhagen, but he comes from Sweden, Malmö. And he's from a company called Word Audio that's basically an audiobook publisher. They also have some ebooks. It's basically an audiobook publisher. But anyway, the idea here is to discuss a little bit about how we can create a digital catalog and what that involves. I will start with a general question, which is related to curation, which Michael has talked about. So, my question is, does the format or the business model play a role in curation? And if it does, I have an even further question. Should it play a role in curation? Shouldn't it just be, and I'm just provoking you, shouldn't you just be looking for the best stories, the best content, independent format, and then just publish and find the best way? Or should we as publishers actually always consider the format we need, where we want to go, and then have that influence curation? So that's a general question. Maybe you can start, Michael, and then comments from other people.
Well, actually, with the curation and the way a publisher selects what it's going to publish, I think you always start with the goal of the publishing house, and you always have to think, what are you trying to achieve as a publisher? And generally, one thing publishers are trying to achieve is to make money, but that's usually not the only thing that a publisher is trying to achieve. You want to find great stories or find incredible ideas or arguments. So I think the curation model that you have always starts with how do we make money, how do we achieve what else we want to do. But then the format has to come into it. So for example, my company, Canelo, we started as a digital company and we were only publishing ebooks. And I think for about a year after we founded the company, we were still just trying everything. We were trying bits of non-fiction, we were trying bits of literary fiction, and then in the end we realized the only books that sell in ebook are very commercial genre fiction. So in a sense we realized that if we wanted to be a successful publisher, some of our editorial, curatorial decisions had been made for us. You know, we couldn't be a digital publisher who published poetry and literary fiction. It just wasn't going to work. So I think if, as a publisher, you aren't paying attention to how the formats that you work in, to some extent dictate your curation, you are not really understanding your own business. You have to think about it.
Thanks. Someone else want to comment on that?
Sure, I definitely agree, and I also think that the traditional way of looking at publishing is not really applicable to the digital services, because what we are really doing is entertainment rather than literature. It's literature, but it's entertainment also. So there's been a shift from maybe more literary books to more commercial stuff.
Anyone else comment on that? Okay, and then it's open for questions a little bit later. But I have a question for you, I'm curious. Of course, everyone can comment. But your publishing house is one of the most productive in Greece. And you do have a huge digital catalog already. And can you tell us a little bit how you built this catalog, how you decided to do that? And more important, has it paid off? In other words, considering the low sales, should the Greek publishers still care about going digital?
Okay, now what happened is Mιχάλης gave the history of the ebook in Greece since 2009, 10 years ago. What happened was the e-reader made an appearance. So suddenly people had the choice and the need to read from a screen. Previously, nobody wanted to read from their screen. As we know, we could display text since forever on our laptops and our desktops. But a device that looked like a printed page was available, so e-reading became a choice for the heavy readers. In 2009 there was no way to export your content from your desktop publishing program to an EPUB or a similar format for an e-book reader to display. So we had to hard code the EPUB file using HTML. EPUBs are HTML pages, which is a website inside a zip file. It's nothing very special in terms of technology. So we had to learn how to create an EPUB file, and then we had to create a way to distribute the EPUB files to our readers, because there were no aggregation services back in 2009 Greece. So it was evident from the very beginning that e-books are EPUB files, not PDF files, which we had already in hand. Because the PDF was created to fix a problem for printing. Before PDF, we had PostScript files, and with the PostScript file, you had to send also the fonts and the images in order for the printer to print it correctly. And a lot of mistakes were happening. PDF encapsulates everything inside, and the problem was solved. A PDF file is not reformatted on a screen, so you cannot display properly your page inside a small screen. You have to zoom, pinch and zoom, which is nonsense. So the EPUB file was created to solve that problem as well. Now, the second choice we had to make was either to use a DRM solution in order to protect the copyright of our authors, or another solution. After looking carefully what happened to the music market for the publishing market, it was also evident that we had to keep the choice and the way for the reader to use the file as the way he wanted, the readers wanted. In the digital market, you don't compete each other, the retailer. You compete piracy. If the pirated file is more usable for the reader, why pay for the legal one? So we inserted an ex libris image with the name of the reader, so it's also personalized. Once you buy your ebook, it's yours. We remind the reader, don't upload it. But also there are hidden watermarks, because it's easy to open up a EPUB file and just deliver. The hidden are in the code, so it's easy to see who uploaded the file, send him a nice email, and take down the file. Now, that gave us the opportunity to provide our catalog also in another format and give the reader the choice to either read the book in electronic format or not, which is also very boring. Yes. For us, the new format gives the opportunity for the author to exploit new ways of storytelling, something we haven't seen worldwide, not just in Greece. Because you have a format which is interactive, you can use JavaScript and other elements of a common website has available, which nobody has done as far as I know until now. iBooks published the Yellow Submarine by Beatles in order to illustrate the multimedia, but I don't think anyone has followed it. And
but in that case, how do you solve the economic equation? Because something like that costs a lot. Why does
back then it was something we had to do in order to provide the choice. It was costly then. Nowadays, InDesign exports a perfect EPUB file. Once we started, we also wanted the electronic version to look a lot like the printed one, not just plain text. We wanted to have our top caps, our typographic ornaments to look a lot like the printed version. Since you pay for something, you make it proper. And but now InDesign can export the same file. So it's just a matter of doing it properly. Make your EPUB file, your MP9 file as you should, and it's easy to export. There's no cost. So the only cost you have is if you own your own. In Greece, we developed the watermarking solution, which was not available worldwide back then. And most the other big publishers bought the Adobe Content Server. I think we have more Adobe Content Servers per capita in the world for some reason. So at the moment,
you are doing all the books you publish, they go digital automatically today?
Audiobooks?
No, all the books you publish digital.
The goal is to publish simultaneously the digital and the printed version. Now we are doing internal structure in the department, so we will be back full soon. And also to digitize the backlist. To have most of the catalog available for someone to have the choice to read it either digital or not. For us, it's something that supplements reading, because you maybe read your printed version at home, but when you're on the go, most probably you have your smartphone with you. So if you want, you can continue reading. So.
Nikos, can you talk a little bit about ＩΚΑΡΟΣ, about the digital catalog, how you came to it and stuff?
It's nowadays, as Aργύρης said, it's very easy to digitize your content and all the production. We have a nice workflow and everything is available as an ebook. The difficult part back then and still now is if a publisher wants to digitize the backlist. So that's expensive. And it's expensive because all the books in the backlist were not typeset using DTP. So for us, given the market right now, it doesn't make sense to invest right now into digitizing the whole of your backlist. This is something that has to be done by hand. You have to typeset your books from scratch. I remind you that OCR programs they are not made to read Greek very efficiently, so the language is a barrier there. So it is our strategy to offer everything in digital format as well. Everything is published at the same time, both in print and digital format. But I think one reason that Mιχάλης mentioned before that the list is not growing so big, the available list of e-books, is because no one has gone back to digitize the back list. Because if that would happen, we would have a pool of 500,000 titles, but we have 8,000.
So, follow again. Giacomo.
Yeah, I just want to add something there. So first of all, about the DRM, it's so great to hear about a big publisher decided to get rid of the DRM. Yes, okay, even better. So DRM stands for Digital Right Management, but it's actually not. It's only a lock-in on the EPUB file. So the EPUB is the de facto standard all around the world. So if you produce an EPUB file, every reader can read that content on any device, produced around the world, because it's been defined by the IDPF, which is now part of the WC. So your books will be accessible, across the world. And so putting the DRM on the EPUB file will not only close down the format, but will also prevent any innovation to happen on that book. It means that content cannot flow all around the world, and no technological startup cannot develop new tools to actually read and enjoy that content and develop new features in order to make that content available to the readers all around the world. So this is a great thing, and I'm so focusing on that because I find every day with publishers that are actually reluctant to avoid DRM, even in Western countries like US or UK. Most of the big publishers, they want to protect that content, not because they think that DRM is the solution, but because, unfortunately, they want to limit the adoption of digital because they want to protect their print business. So I'm so happy to hear that. The second thing I want to add is about the economic of scale of digitalizing digital books. Because I want to just bring our experience that we have in Italy, which is a small market like the Greek market. And I think that for a small market, digital can open up great opportunities in terms of exporting local content to the world. There are many technological, aggregators like Strictly, but there are many global platforms that allow anybody in the world to read books online. So you can just upload your books on Strictly, for example, to make the books available to more than 200 online retailers all around the world. And this will open up new opportunities. And so I think this is something that you should have on the equation when you consider digitalizing the backlist as well.
As it happens, also have some kind of experience on conversions and production of ebooks and so on. I think one thing I would like to stress is that though for the current books, the new books, it is far more easier to make an EPUB out of them. That's true. But talking about building a catalog, that takes time. And it takes time, first of all, because you have really to sometimes re-educate the people who work in the publishing house or maybe get external help. So it takes time for that reason. And also it takes time because of the backlist, as the two publishers mentioned. And the backlist is really important for many publishers because there are many gems and money makers really in the backlist. So I think it's important to stress that building a digital catalog takes time because many people in Greece believe that when the opportunity comes and when Amazon or someone else appears, then I will do then I'll get it done. But not now. And the truth is that maybe then you won't have the time that you suppose you would have. And the second thing is that it is important that the e-books, digital catalog, that it should not be an afterthought. Even for publishers who are active in e-books, who produce e-books, they want to go digital, to tap into new opportunities and so on. It so happens that most of the time it's an afterthought. You have to print the book, and then I'll do the social. And this goes for me to a kind of vicious circle, in the sense that many people don't try ebooks because there is no content, and then because not many people don't read actual, don't buy ebooks, we say that we don't need, there's no specific reason to create new content, new digital books. So, like all vicious circles, somewhere you need to break it. And one last comment on formats and curation and catalog. I think that formats are really important, of course. That's true. We all know that. I think the industry has experimented very much with breaking the formats in the sense of trying to do apps. That was a huge trend from the beginning. But apps proved to be quite expensive, quite difficult to make, and maybe most of the times you ask too much from the reader to put your icon, your app icon on the limited screen. So probably where innovation could go and it has to do with formats and new methods, new content, new creative methods, and so on, is the web. It's an open web. that maybe a publishing project should be a web page, which has all the potential of open web technology, and of course it has a main drawback. From today, it is far more easier to persuade someone to buy a single file, but it is really hard to persuade someone to pay even 1 cent for accessing a web page, even if the content is exactly the same.
Perfect. And I'd like to move a little bit from digital to audio now. So Mattias, can you tell us a little bit how was it to build your catalog? You produced 200 audiobooks around that last year in Swedish, and it's a 10-year-old company, so you probably learned a lot and changed strategy around the way. A little bit of the story behind your catalog in audio.
Okay, yeah. So just a comment for you. For us, it was like this. We worked a lot of years not making any money, basically. But when there all of a sudden was a company that could distribute, and that is why we're so big now. I mean, like maybe 50% of all our sales are backlinks. So I'm going to talk a bit more about that later. I'm not going to give away everything I'm saying. But I did have some questions about the Greek market. I don't really know how it works, but one of our largest customers, except for the streaming services, are the libraries. So that's not like this. Okay. Okay. And really, what I hear when I hear you talk is, and I was hoping there would be like maybe a little younger audience. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. I mean, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, there's really some big changes to be made. And they're going to be made by somebody, so why not one of you?
You know something we don't?
No, it's just that digitalization will happen. It will happen to everything that can. Look at the music industry, the film industry, I mean the book industry in Sweden. It's just, and it's also like this. For instance, if I talk about Storytel, they have 400 or 500 customers with 500,000, which is not much. It's really not much. So in a couple of years, maybe they have 2 million in Sweden, and worldwide they will have 10 million, 50 million, I don't know. But it's not that much of the total population. And the money you spend on it, which is in Sweden, it's like maybe like 15 euros a month. That's not that much either. And you get used to having it. So, and it forms a habit. And I will talk some more about it later. But so over the years, yes, we have built a catalog. In Sweden, we have maybe around 1,000 titles. And some of them are really commercial, where we bought rights to books when the authors were not famous at all. We became friends with them. They succeeded in the audio business, and then they got other contracts with really big publishing houses. But we still own like the 3 first books in their series. So whenever they put out a new book, we sell a lot of backlists. And that's sort of how the streaming service works for us.
So a last question before I open to other questions. To the Greek side of you, do you believe audio could be something in Greece? I mean, it's not existent yet, but what's your guess? Is it another problem for you or another opportunity?
Well, I do believe in audio, yes. I do believe the Greek market could maybe even skip the ebook a bit and go deeper for an audiobook.
Yeah, so, and the ebook is still really small in Sweden as well.
That's what happens to the prima.
Yeah. So what we need to explore is production cost, which is quite expensive to produce audiobooks, and then all you need, I think, is a proper platform, proper distribution platform, I think it could work, yes. We were discussing yesterday together that in different markets, different genres of audiobooks have different appeal. So in Greece, I have a sense that most people would use audiobooks for non-fiction and maybe self-help and these kinds of books. In other territories, it's only fiction and nothing else. So I think it's definitely worth exploring, and I think soon we'll have some samples.
Just to add one last point about that, about how there are different markets for audiobook. One thing about the British audiobook market that is interesting is that mostly book buyers are women, and ebooks are massively bought by women. Maybe 75% of ebooks are sold to women, whereas the audiobook market has a more male skew. So more men are, well, it's probably 50-50 in audiobooks, which is unusual given that for print books and ebooks, there are many more women buying. So it's just interesting. It means there are opportunities for different kinds of books in audiobook, which is interesting.
And do you know, in terms of genres, is it lots of literature or non-fiction plays a role? In Sweden, it's basically fiction, and non-fiction there is nothing. So
no, non-fiction and fiction equally. So the ebook market is a very specific kind of market, whereas the audiobook market in the UK reflects the wider book market a lot more. So you will have fiction, but you'll also have a bit of literary fiction, you'll have history, memoir, biography, all working in audiobook.
does anyone have any question? You can ask in Greek. And good. Can you speak up? That's okay.
Φαντάζομαι όμως ότι ένα θέμα το οποίο έχει πάρα πολύ σημασία εκτός από το βιβλίο του fiction είναι το scientific, το επιστημονικό βιβλίο, το οποίο θα σας δώσω ένα παράδειγμα. Για 1000 projects στο διάστημα απασχολούν περίπου κατά μέσο όρο 1000 επιστήμονες, 1 εκατομμύριο. Το τέλος του 30 θα είναι περίπου 1 δισεκατομμύριο. Υψηλού επίπεδου επιστήμονες, οι οποίοι θα δουλεύουν περίπου για 30 χρόνια για τα διάφορα projects. Άρα, είναι το οποίο μοντέλο στο επιστημονικό βιβλίο είναι βασικά το πληρώνει το κόστος author. Δηλαδή, το business model στο επιστημονικό βιβλίο διαβάζεις οτιδήποτε, ο αναγνώστης δεν πληρώνει, πληρώνει author, ο οποίος πληρώνει από τον ατζέντη του. Αυτό είναι το μοντέλο, χοντρικά, το οικονομικό μοντέλο στο επιστημονικό βιβλίο. Στο επιστημονικό paper, δηλαδή στη βιβλιοθήκη. Αυτό το λαμβάνετε υπόψη, υπάρχει ένα business model αντίστοιχα για το fiction world, γιατί στο επιστημονικό πρόκειται να γίνει τερατωδώς έκρηξη.
Okay, just so the kids can understand. He's talking more about STM and scientific publishing, because in that case the authors are still. My wife is a scholar in medicine. I'm always mad all the time because she's actually paying to be published all the time to these big magazines. So I don't know if anyone can comment on how they see scientific publishing in the future, how digital can change that or how it should.
Unfortunately, none of us are into scientific STM publishing, and I'm not aware of the models where authors pay to get published or to see their articles or their books published. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, it's great. Basically, if you work your ass off to publish a scientific article, and then someone has to pay the magazine for all of it, and they still sell the magazine back to the university. So what has been happening, what I can tell you is this: 2 months ago, some scientific publishers are having a very hard time. In California, decided to stop buying some of those stuff. In Sweden as well. So, I mean, especially the government-funded universities around the world are getting to a point to say that's enough. We're not going to finance you the way anymore. So there are some things are coming in.
And yeah, I do look at this area quite a lot because I'm interested in scientific communication. It is an absurd situation where you have governments paying researchers to do research, and then the government also pays the libraries to buy that research. So it is a crazy situation. And then you have the companies in the middle have profit margins of 33%. So the biggest journals publisher, Elsevier, is making €1 billion in profit every year. And that is profit made entirely from taxpayers around the world. So you would think that in this situation it is ripe for disruption, for new technology. And to some extent that has happened. So there are things like the Public Library of Science, there are things like archive, which is the way physicists share their paper. But this is the strange thing, is that academics, even though they will upload their research to archive for free, they feel the need to have the most prestigious journals publish their work. So if you're a scientist and the journal Nature publishes your work, then your career is made. And that means that whatever you do with open access, whatever you do with new technology, until academics and scientists say, I don't care about Nature, the journals have a monopoly on prestige, and the crazy system will continue. So actually it's not a technological problem, it is a cultural problem within academia as much as anything.
Just a short comment. I think that open access is it's a key word when it comes to STM and academic and so on. But another key word is platform. In many ways, and you cannot talk about subscription. In many ways, the academic publishers are not just publishing content; they are publishing content plus they are providing tools, a toolbox, services around this content, and this goes also with new models of paying this content. One is all-in-one subscription, lots of modular payments, paper, a single article, and so on. So in a way, it is a different kind of publishing. But I think platform is key, and it's also something that literature, because I think that was the question also. Literature can learn from that we need platforms, not just a single book.
I think we have time for another question.
I'd like to ask Nikos, why you think the audiobook market is for the Greek market? Do you think it's a cultural thing, or it's something that we haven't discovered yet and it's ours to discover?
Well, I think different societies have different... I think Greece is a society that audio works. We are a vocal society, we like to listen, we like to talk a lot, we like to... So I think one part is cultural, and the other part is that I think in a way audio, and that comes back to what Mattias said about entertainment. In Greece we don't have a strong reading pool, we don't have a high percentage of people reading books for entertainment. So audio, in a way, can offer that in a different format. So I will ask this, do we consider audiobooks reading? Is it reading or not? Listening to a novel in your car, is it considered reading? I think audiobooks have a chance to appeal to a much more mass market, to more people than e-books and maybe print books. So I think there might be a challenge there. That's why I said I think it's an interesting format for Greece.
Well, one of the reasons I'm asking you is that, for example, me, or it's been a long time. I had in my mind to listen to this nice podcasts from Sky TV or Sky Radio level. And I really didn't have the chance so far to do it. And I know that there is very, very interesting and productive stuff in there. Although it takes me 45 minutes to go from work home and vice versa. And I don't know, I didn't have the chance. I'm wondering, you guys, did you ever have the chance to do it? I'm wondering the consumer of this audiobook, what kind of guy is he? How much time does he or she have?
I can comment. Well, all the time, what's happened is Storytel is open in Spanish, so they're being very successful in Mexico, where they don't take 45 minutes, they take 2.5 hours one way. So then,
it's a different.
Yeah, but I can tell for myself, I cannot honestly listen to an audio. I get distracted in 2 seconds. It's not for me, really. But still, I believe in the market. I think anywhere it's gonna grow somehow. I'm not a consumer at all. It's not me, but I think it's gonna grow, and there's people that really like it. I think to some extent you're gonna get new readers, people that don't read books. Of course, there's a little cannibalization too, so you have to find the right equation there. But yeah, I believe in the model, even though I don't listen to it. So.
How about the gentleman from Chile?
I don't listen to audiobooks either. And if I do, I listen to them with speed up. So they're like 1.5 in tempo. But
why is that? Don't have the time, or you get bored?
Yeah, I get bored. Yes, I want to get to the point pretty fast. And the way I listen is probably the way a lot of people do it. And I'm going to talk more about it pretty soon. And I think, the audiobook has so many advantages, and we're competing with other stuff like the movie, like Netflix. We're competing with all other Facebook and other stuff. But the thing with audiobooks is that you can listen and you can do something else at the same time. You can't go around Facebook at the same time you do something else. So that's the advantage of the books. And people really want entertainment. The modern man and woman, we are so eager to do everything at a time. And that's not good. It's not good. It's good for my business, but in general, it's not good. We want to do everything at a time. We want to be with a family at the same time as we listen to a book, and we want to do everything at the same time.
Yeah. Sorry for challenging that. Sorry. Why listening to an audiobook and not watching Roman Empire from Netflix, which is a combination of audiobook and excellent scenery?
So when you're on your bike, or you're on your bike on the way to work, then you can't watch the movie.
So you mean that your customers read the audiobooks while driving, other things?
Be cooking, or you can be ironing, but you cannot do that with...
I listened to my first audiobook back in 2004 while doing my national service in the Air Force.
Were there any accidents?
While I was guarding the camp, yes. Now, to also compliment on Nico's answer regarding audiobooks in Greece at the moment, what has happened in the past few years, a lot of things have changed also in the distribution that we have available at the moment. Distribution platforms, for example, it is more accessible to offer ebooks through the web. More people have broadband connections and mobile connections. More people have credit cards because of capital controls. You may remember. So
you have all the conditions to make a digital product available easily. So most of the costs that were in the past in front of you have gone. So it is more economically viable to offer an audiobook. So I think all the conditions have matured in order to exploit if there is a market for another audiobook to market or not.
Thank you. We were a little bit pressure on time, so okay, next question.
I just wanted to ask concerning the British and the Swedish market, not international in general, concerning the audiobooks. Do you have data about the percentage of people with visual disabilities using the audiobooks?
Yes, it's really high, and it's been a big. Before audiobooks became fashionable, the big driver of audiobooks, there's something called the Royal National Society for the Blind in the UK. And for years, they have funded the creation of audiobooks specifically for their members, so they'll pay to do it. And so it's been a huge part of the market in terms of getting it established. And even now, so we've just started an audiobook program, and the people who we use to produce our audiobooks are a charity. So they do it for us commercially to earn money, but then it means that our audiobooks automatically go into their program for the visually impaired. So yes, it's big.
But so the ones that the government pays for, they are not commercially used, no?
No,
except for you, so.
They are, I believe. So it's a charity that pays.
Okay.
So they will pay for the production of something as long as they and their members, and it can be sold commercially, but anyone who's a member of the organization gets it for free.
Yeah, so in Sweden we also have something like that, but it's paid by the government. I would say the usage for those who cannot see, it's pretty low in the commercial, but I think this program has been going on forever. So basically, it's if a person that cannot read or cannot see wants a book to be recorded, it will be. So the government pays for that, but they are not used commercially at all. And I think also that those books were pretty boringly narrated because they had like a standard, so the narrators had to be really flat and not do anything creative at all. So I think a lot of those who listen to those books actually has a subscription service as well. But then again, there are so many books that don't get to the audio because they're not commercially viable at all. So yeah.
Okay, so everyone's going to be available here to keep talking about that. I'd like to thank everyone and thank you guys that took the opportunity to cover the most brief speaker here.